Hey TechKnowStuds! My guess is that many of you already know or have encountered what is a kilobyte or what is a megabyte and have some general idea of the concept of them. But what is it specifically? And more importantly, is there any variation with this? And the answer to that is yes. So in this lesson, let's get into what is the difference between these and what is that variation that I'm talking about. A kilo stands for 1,000. So if I have a kilobit, that's 1,000 bits. If I have a kilobyte, it's 1,000 bytes. Same thing with mega. If I have a megabit, then it's 1,000,000 bits. If I have a megabyte, then it's 1,000,000 bytes. Same thing with Giga, which stands for billion, and Tera, which is trillion, and so on and so forth. Here's another way to look at that. Let's say I had a terabyte of information. Well, that would be a trillion bytes, or it would be a billion kilobytes, or it would be a million megabytes, or a 1,000 gigabytes. So how do we represent this? Well, if we're talking about speeds, we just add a BPS to the end of whatever letter it is. Now notice the K is lowercase and the rest of these are uppercase. So mega, giga, tera, and peta here. If it was storage, same thing, except for it's just represented by a B rather than the BPS over here. And it's usually big B because it's storage. So we're talking about bytes usually. So let's actually apply this. What does this look like? Well, for the first one here, what we have is 8 terabytes. So that would be 8 trillion. So if I were to write this out, it'd be 8, and this would be 1,000, this would be million, this would be billion, and then trillion. So this, and it's a byte, so we're gonna say byte right here. So that's how we would come up with this. I can do the next one as well, 64, and this would be 1,000, and this would be million, and this is a megabyte, so 64 million bytes is what this is. So what you can do is go ahead and pause the video, go and figure out the rest of these, and then we'll come together and see what we come up with. So go ahead and pause the video and then play to find out what the answer is. All right, and the answer to these is right here. So you can pause and check your answers to see how close you got. Okay, and hopefully you catch that this was a little b as well as all these transmission speeds. And so these are some of the transmission speeds and some of the data rates that you would actually see out there on a lot of our Ethernet connections. So for the most part, it really is just that simple. And for most of what we're doing, this is simple enough. However, if we're getting really granular on how we're measuring things, there is one concern that comes up, and that not everybody measures this all the same. And so there is, what I've just went over, is the International System of Units. And so that's pretty standard out there for not just measuring computer stuff, but all sorts of things. And so we use this system for measuring computer stuff as well. But it's not the only way that we measure things. There's also this binary prefix here, and we measure it in 1024 instead. So a kilo is 1024. A mega is this 1,048,576. A giga is this number right here, a tera and a peta. And we can see a difference with this. And that's because instead of using 1,000 to whatever power, we're using 1024 to whatever power. And why this makes a difference is because on a small scale, it really doesn't make much of a difference. If we're talking about kilos, 1,000 versus 1,024 is just 2.4% difference. But as we work our way up, since we're using 1,024 rather than 1,000, now we see at the peta range, it's 12% difference, and that's fairly significant. So there's a lot of confusion out there when it comes to these units and a lot of misinformation that's out there as well. So you'll see much of this measured in SI and much of it measured in binary prefixes. And so to help try to standardize this, in 1998, the IEC tried to say, okay, this is what you should do. You should, if you're using the SI form of measuring this, you can call it kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, and so on and so forth, and you can use the standard measurement. However, if you're using the binary prefix form of this, we should call it a KB byte, we should call it a mebibyte, a gigbyte, a tebibyte, and these are how you should specify it with a little I slipped in there so that people know the difference and can understand the difference. However, a lot of people don't follow these rules. So even though they're using binary prefixes, they still represent their data as in if it's a SI type of measurement here. So the biggest thing is, for the most part, you're safe using the SI, but if you want to get really granular, then you'll have to look into the specific technology that you're using and make sure that you're calculating things correctly.